Seeds of necessity. Maya Chen knelt beside the prize-winning rose bushes, her weathered hands gently pruning the thorny stems as morning dew still clung to the petals. The Vale Estate's garden stretched across 3 acres of perfectly manicured landscape, each flower bed and pathway a testament to her 5 years of careful cultivation. She paused to wipe sweat from her brow, leaving a small streak of earth across her forehead. "The roses are particularly beautiful this season," came a deep voice behind her. Maya turned to find Sebastian Vale watching her work. The estate's owner rarely ventured into the gardens, preferring the climate-controlled environment of his art galleries in the city. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, and his usually pristine appearance seemed somehow diminished. "Thank you, Mr. Vale. The new fertilizer mixture has helped them flourish." Maya stood, brushing dirt from her knees. She had always found him intimidating, not because he was unkind, but because of the profound sadness that seemed to follow him like a shadow since his sister's death. 2 years ago, Sebastian nodded absently, his gaze drifting across the garden. "Maya, I have an unusual proposition for you. Would you walk with me?" Confused but curious, Maya fell into step beside him as they meandered down the stone pathway she had lined with lavender. The familiar scent usually calmed her, but today, anxiety knotted in her stomach. "I assume you're aware of Isabella's foundation," Sebastian began, referring to the charitable organization his sister had established to provide art therapy for underprivileged children. "What you may not know is that the inheritance terms require me to marry within 3 years of her passing, or the foundation reverts to distant relatives who plan to dissolve it." Maya's eyes widened. She had volunteered at several foundation events, helping to set up outdoor spaces for the children's art activities. The organization had touched hundreds of young lives. "I have 8 months remaining," Sebastian continued, his voice steady but strained. "I've considered various options, but they all involve women who would expect more than I can give right now." They stopped beside the fountain Maya had surrounded with white jasmine. Sebastian turned to face her directly. "I know about your siblings, Maya. Mrs. Harrison mentioned you send most of your wages home to support Tommy and Lucy." Heat rose in Maya's cheeks. She had hoped her financial struggles weren't obvious, but feeding and housing to 12-year-olds on a gardener's salary left little room for pride. "I'm proposing a marriage of convenience," Sebastian said quietly. "You would receive a substantial monthly allowance, enough to ensure your siblings' education and security. In return, you would help me preserve Isabella's legacy. The arrangement would be entirely practical, separate quarters, no expectations beyond public appearances when necessary." Maya stared at him, her mind reeling. Marriage to Sebastian Vale would solve every financial worry that kept her awake. At night, Tommy's asthma medications, Lucy's art supplies, their school fees, everything would be covered. But the idea of marrying without love, even for practical reasons, felt like stepping into unknown territory. "Why me?" she whispered. Sebastian's expression softened slightly. "Because you understand devotion without expecting returns. You've spent years nurturing these gardens, asking for nothing but the satisfaction of watching them grow. Isabella always said you were the kindest person she knew." Maya looked around at the gardens that had become her sanctuary, then thought of her siblings' faces during their last video call, trying to hide their disappointment when she couldn't afford the art class Lucy desperately wanted to join. "I need time to think," she said finally. Sebastian nodded. "Take all the time you need. But Mawai, I hope you'll consider it, for both our sakes." The unexpected gift, the small ceremony, had taken place in the estate's sunroom. Surrounded by Maya's favorite orchids and attended only by Mrs. Harrison as witness and the officiant, Maya wore a simple cream dress she had purchased with her last paycheck, while Sebastian appeared in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than she earned in 6 months. The vows were brief and businesslike, a contract sealed with awkward handshakes rather than a kiss. Now, as evening shadows stretched across the marble floors of the main house, Maya stood uncertainly in the doorway of what Mrs. Harrison had designated as her new quarters. The suite was larger than the apartment she had shared with her siblings back in the city, complete with a sitting area overlooking the gardens and a bathroom with fixtures that gleamed like jewelry. A soft knock, interrupted her thoughts. Sebastian stood in the hallway, no longer wearing his wedding suit. Instead, he had changed into dark jeans and a simple white shirt that made him appear younger. Less formidable than the man who had proposed this arrangement 3 weeks ago. "I wanted to give you this," he said, extending a small wooden box carved. With intricate rose patterns, it belonged to Isabella. Maya accepted the box with trembling fingers, surprised by its weight. The wood was warm and smooth, clearly crafted by skilled hands. "I can't accept something so personal," she would have. "Wanted you to have it," Sebastian insisted, though his voice caught slightly on his sister's name. "Open it." Inside, Maya found dozens of seed packets, each labeled in Isabella's careful handwriting: moonflower for new beginnings, forget-me-nots for remembrance, sweet peas for gratitude. Beneath the seeds lay a folded letter, sealed with green wax. "She wrote this 2 months before she died," Sebastian explained, settling into the chair across from Maya's small sofa. "She made me promise to give it to whoever I eventually married, though I never imagined it would be under these circumstances." Maya's hands shook as she broke the seal and unfolded the delicate paper. Isabella's handwriting was elegant but shaky, evidence of her final illness. "To the woman who has captured my brother's heart," the letter began. Maya glanced up at Sebastian, who was staring out the window with studied intensity. "If you are reading this, it means Sebastian has finally allowed someone close enough to matter. I pray it is Maya, the gardener with the gentle soul, who brought such beauty to our grounds and such comfort to my final days. She never knew how often I watched her tend the flowers, or how her quiet strength reminded me that life continues to grow even in the darkest seasons." Maya's throat tightened as she continued reading. "Sebastian, my dearest brother, if this is indeed Maya, then stop reading over her shoulder and listen to your heart. You have spent 2 years watering your grief like it was the only thing worth cultivating. But real love doesn't diminish the memory of those we've lost. It honors them by proving we haven't forgotten how to bloom." The letter continued with Isabella's observations about Maya's character. Her kindness to the Foundation's children, her dedication to beauty in small things. But the final paragraph was addressed to both of them. "I am asking you to be patient with each other. Sebastian, teach her that she deserves more than survival, she deserves joy. Maya, teach him that opening his heart again isn't a betrayal of my memory, but a celebration of it. Plant these seeds together, watch them grow. Learn that the most unexpected gardens often yield the most extraordinary flowers." Maya wiped tears from her cheeks as she folded the letter. Sebastian had turned back toward her, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "When I proposed this arrangement, I thought it would be simpler. Just a business transaction. But Isabella always had a way of complicating things with hope." Maya looked down at the seed packets scattered in her lap, moonflowers for new beginnings. "Maybe," she whispered, "complicated isn't always bad." Sebastian managed a small smile, the first genuine one she had ever seen from him. "Would you like to start over? Not as strangers bound by a contract, but as friends learning to tend the same garden?" Maya nodded, clutching Isabella's seeds like precious stones. "I'd like that very much." Growing trust, the following weeks fell into an unexpected rhythm. Each morning, Maya would find Sebastian in the kitchen before dawn, preparing coffee with the careful precision he applied to everything in his life. They would share a quiet breakfast, discussing the day's garden tasks or the weather, before Sebastian departed for his gallery in the city. It was during these morning conversations that Maya began to glimpse the man beneath the grief. Sebastian remembered details about her work hasking, about the struggling hydrangeas near the east wall, or wondering if the herb garden would be ready for Mrs. Harrison's cooking experiments. In return, Maya found herself sharing stories about Tommy and Lucy, their video calls filled with excited chatter about their new school and art supplies that Sebastian's generosity had made possible. One evening in late September, Maya was planting Isabella's moonflower seeds. Along the garden's back fence, when Sebastian appeared with 2 glasses of iced tea, "Mrs. Harrison thought you might be thirsty," he said, settling onto the stone bench nearby. I had started joining her in the garden more frequently, claiming he needed fresh air after long days surrounded by paintings and sculptures. The moonflowers should bloom next summer, Maya explained, patting soil around the tiny seedlings. Isabella's note says they open at night and smell like vanilla. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, watching her work. She used to sneak out here during her treatments, he said finally. The medications made it hard for her to sleep, so she would walk the garden paths at midnight. I never understood why until I found her journal after she died. Maya paused in her planting, sensing this was important. She wrote about finding peace in the darkness, about how your night-blooming flowers taught her that beauty doesn't always need an audience. Sebastian's voice grew softer. She said watching things grow had helped her accept. Letting go. Sat back on her heels, studying Sebastian's profile in the fading light. Is that why you avoid the gardens? Because they remind you of her? Partly. Sebastian ran his fingers through his hair, a gesture Maya had learned meant he was struggling with words, but also because she was right about beauty not needing an audience. I spent so many years focused on acquiring and displaying art, treating beauty like something to be possessed rather than experienced. A cool breeze rustled through the nearby maple trees, carrying the scent of the roses Maya had been nurturing since spring. She thought about Isabella's letter, about teaching Sebastian that opening his heart wasn't betrayal. Would you like to help me plant the forget-me-nots? Maya asked gently. Isabella wanted them near the fountain. Sebastian hesitated, then knelt beside her, in the soft earth. His hands were elegant but unpracticed, clearly more accustomed to handling delicate art than digging in soil. Maya showed him how to measure spacing between seeds, how to judge the right depth for planting. I used to paint, Sebastian said unexpectedly as they worked. Before I inherited the gallery, before I became obsessed with business success, Isabella always said I should return to it. What stopped you? Sebastian was quiet for so long that Maya thought he wouldn't answer. Fear, I suppose. Fear that I wasn't talented enough, that I would disappoint her expectations. After she died, the fear became bigger fear that trying to create something beautiful would make her absence more real. Maya understood that kind of fear. She had stopped singing after their parents died, afraid that joy would somehow diminish her grief for them. The garden was terrifying when I first started here, she admitted. All these expensive plants, perfectly designed spaces. I was sure I would kill something valuable and lose my job. But Mrs. Harrison told me that gardens are meant to change, to grow, even to fail sometimes. She said the only real mistake would be not trying. Sebastian looked at her with something approaching wonder. How did you become so wise? Genuinely surprised. I'm not wise. I'm just someone who learned that seeds can't grow if you're too afraid to plant them. As they finished the last row of forget-me-nots, Sebastian's muddy hand accidentally brushed against Maya's. Instead of pulling away, he let his fingers linger for a moment against hers. Thank you, he said quietly. For the first time in 2 years, I think I'm remembering what it feels like to hope for spring. Maya smiled, her heart doing something strange and fluttery in her chest. Around them, the garden settled into evening stillness, holding the promise of all the beautiful things yet to bloom. Weathering storms, October arrived with unseasonable warmth, allowing Maya's fall chrysanthemums to flourish in brilliant displays of amber and burgundy. She was deadheading the spent blooms when Mrs. Harrison appeared on the garden path. Her usually composed face creased with worry. Maya, dear, your siblings are here, she said breathlessly. They took a bus from the city. Apparently there's been some trouble at their school. Maya's heart clenched as she hurried toward the house, still wearing her gardening gloves. Found Tommy and Lucy huddled together on the front steps, their small suitcases beside them. Lucy's face was streaked with tears, while Tommy wore the stoic expression he always adopted when trying to protect his sister. What happened? Maya knelt before them, pulling both children into her arms. The other kids found out about the money, Tommy said quietly. They're saying terrible things about you, about why you married Mr. Vale. Lucy got into a fight with a girl who called you a gold digger. Lucy sobbed against Maya's shoulder. I hit her, Maya. I know I shouldn't have, but she said such awful things. Now the principal wants to expel me. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of consequences she hadn't anticipated. In her desperation to provide for her siblings, she had forgotten how cruel children could be about circumstances they didn't understand. Maya? Sebastian's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him standing in the doorway, having returned early from the gallery. His expression was gentle as he took in the scene. Perhaps we should bring this conversation inside.
As.
An hour later, they sat around the kitchen table with hot chocolate and Mrs. Harrison's homemade cookies. Tommy and Lucy had gradually relaxed. Under Sebastian's patient questions about their interests and hobbies, Maya watched in amazement as her reserved husband drew her siblings out with genuine curiosity about Lucy's drawings and Tommy's fascination with astronomy. "The truth is," Sebastian said after hearing the full story, "your sister made a very brave decision to help your family. But sometimes brave decisions come with complications we don't expect. Are you going to send us back?" Lucy whispered. Her eyes enormous, Sebastian looked at Maya, something passing between them that felt like a question and an answer all at once. "Actually, I was wondering if you might like to stay here for a while. There's an excellent school in the village. And Maya could use help in the gardens." Maya's throat tightened with gratitude, but before she could respond, Sebastian's phone rang urgently. His face darkened as he answered, stepping away to speak in low, tense tones. "What is it?" Maya asked when he returned. "The Foundation's largest donor is withdrawing support," Sebastian said grimly. "Apparently, rumors about our marriage have reached certain social circles. They're questioning the legitimacy of our commitment, threatening to pull funding unless we can prove this isn't just a legal maneuver." Maya felt her world tilting. Without the Foundation's donors, Isabella's work would die, and their marriage would have accomplished nothing. "How much do we need?" Maya asked quietly. Sebastian ran the numbers, his business mind calculating rapidly. 200,000 to cover the shortfall and prove we're serious about long-term stability? Tommy had been listening intently, his 12-year-old face serious. "Maya, remember when you sold Mom's jewelry to keep us in our apartment? You said sometimes you have to give up something precious to protect what matters more." Maya stared at her brother, understanding flooding through her. She thought about the small savings account she had been building, the emergency fund that represented years of careful budgeting. Wasn't nearly enough. But combined with Sebastian's resources, "I have some money saved," she said slowly. "About 15,000. It's not much, but if you match it, maybe we can make a significant enough contribution to show our commitment." Sebastian shook his head. "Maya, I can't ask you to risk your security. You're not asking." Maya said firmly, "I'm offering." This foundation was Isabella's dream. She believed in helping children find beauty in difficult circumstances. And Lucy are proof of what that kind of support can accomplish. That evening, after the twins had been settled in the guest rooms upstairs, Sebastian found Maya in the garden. She was sitting beside the fountain, staring at the forget-me-nots they had planted together. "Are you having second thoughts?" asked gently. Maya looked up at him, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. "About the money? No? About any of this? No." Sebastian sat beside her on the stone bench. "When I proposed this arrangement, I thought I was offering you security in exchange for helping me preserve Isabella's legacy. I didn't expect... what? I didn't expect to care so much about whether you stayed." His admission hung in the evening air like the scent of late roses. "Watching you with Tommy and Lucy today, seeing how fiercely you protect the people you love, made me realize that somewhere along the way, you've become one of those people for me too." Maya's heart stuttered. "Sebastian... I know this wasn't what we agreed to," he said quickly. "But I needed you to know, before we take this next step together, that it's not just about the foundation anymore. At least not for me." Maya reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers as naturally as morning glory vines climbing toward sunlight. "For me either," she whispered around them. The garden held its breath, as if even the flowers understood that something precious was taking root in the space between them. Full bloom 1 year later, Maya knelt in the same spot where she had first met Sebastian. But the garden around her had transformed into something beyond her wildest imagination. The moonflowers Isabella had chosen had indeed bloomed through the summer nights, filling the air with vanilla sweetness that drew both Sebastian and Maya to evening walks along the back fence. The forget-me-nots had spread into a carpet of blue around the fountain, and the sweet peas climbed the arbor in cascades of pink and white. "The photographer wants a few more shots by the roses," Sebastian called from the stone pathway, looking handsome in his navy suit. Today marked not only their first wedding anniversary, but also their decision to renew their vows this time, with love as their foundation, rather than mere convenience. Maya smoothed her flowing sage-green dress, chosen to complement the garden's autumn palette. Tommy and Lucy had arrived the night before, both taller and more confident after their year at the village school. Lucy's artistic talents had flourished under the Foundation's mentorship program, while Tommy had discovered a love for botanical science through helping Maya with her garden experiments. "Are you ready, Mrs. Vale?" Sebastian asked, offering his arm. The name still gave Maya a little thrill, especially when he said it with that particular warmth in his voice. Almost, Maya touched the small wooden box in her pocket, Isabella's seed box, now empty, except for one final packet they had saved for today. "I want to do something first." She led Sebastian to a spot near the garden's heart, where a young oak tree stood in a circle of freshly turned earth. Mrs. Harrison had helped her choose the location, insisting that every proper garden needed a tree for shade and permanence. "Isabella's last seeds," Maya explained, showing Sebastian the packet labeled in familiar handwriting, "Oak tree for strength and longevity. I've been saving them for the right moment." Sebastian's eyes softened. With understanding, "She would love knowing we're planting this together." They knelt side by side, just as they had that first evening with the forget-me-nots, but everything felt different now. Sebastian's hands were no longer unfamiliar with soil and seeds. His movements matched Maya's with practiced ease, born from countless mornings spent learning to tend the garden alongside her. "I never thanked you properly," Sebastian said as they patted earth around the tiny oak seedling. "For what? For teaching me the difference between preserving beauty and letting it grow?" Sebastian sat back on his heels, his gaze encompassing the flourishing garden around them. "When I first hired you, I wanted perfection, every plant in its designated place, every bloom on schedule. But you showed me that the most beautiful gardens are the ones allowed to surprise you." Maya smiled, remembering their early morning conversations, the way Sebastian had gradually relaxed his need to control every aspect of their arrangement. "You taught me a few things too, such as that sometimes the most unexpected partnerships yield the strongest roots." Maya looked at the freshly planted oak, already imagining the shade it would provide for future generations. "And that love doesn't diminish when you share, it multiplies, like perennial flowers coming back stronger each season." The sound of laughter drew their attention toward the house, where Tommy and Lucy were helping Mrs. Harrison arrange chairs for the ceremony. The Foundation's director had arrived with several of the children whose lives had been touched by Isabella's vision, their artwork displayed on easels throughout the garden. "Ready now?" Sebastian asked, standing and offering Maya his hand. "Ready," she agreed, letting him pull her to her feet. As they walked toward their wedding guests, Maya caught sight of her reflection in the fountain's surface. The woman looking back at her bore a little resemblance to the worried gardener who had once knelt among these same roses, desperately trying to make ends meet. This woman's face glowed with contentment, her eyes bright with the confidence that came from being truly seen and valued. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. Their new vows spoken beneath the arbor, where sweet peas bloomed in defiance of the season. When Sebastian promised to tend their love with the same patience Maya brought to her gardens, her heart felt full enough to overflow. Later, as evening settled over the celebration and fairy lights twinkled among the branches, Maya found herself back at the fountain with Sebastian. Their guests mingled around them, Tommy explaining star constellations to fascinated Foundation children, Lucy teaching Mrs. Harrison to sketch the garden's shadows, board members discussing plans for expanding the Foundation's reach. "No regrets?" Sebastian asked, pulling Maya close as soft music drifted from the speakers Mrs. Harrison had discreetly placed among the flowers. Maya looked around at the garden they had created together, at the family they had built from the most unlikely circumstances, at the legacy they were nurturing in Isabella's memory. The oak seedling stood barely visible in the gathering darkness, but Maya could envision its future strong branches providing shelter, deep roots holding steady through every season. "Only one," Maya said, smiling up at her husband. "I wish Isabella could see how beautifully her seeds have grown." Sebastian spun her gently, her dress flowing around them like flower petals in the breeze. "I think," he said softly, "she can." Above them, the first moonflowers of the evening began to open, releasing their vanilla fragrance into the night. Isabella's gift continuing to bloom, season after season, in the garden of their unexpected love.